drugs were able to be developed by the FDA. So he went up against the FDA, not you pretty much one of the worst bureaucracies you could think of in the United States. What's another bad bureaucracy? Maybe the SEC, maybe the financial systems. Basically, while he was CEO of this company, he started realizing that these companies the government is trying to tell these companies how to run. But more importantly, the CEOs of these companies are trying to tell us how to live. They're trying to make us feel bad for how we vote. They're telling us we're bad people if we come from a certain political party. And he thought this was bad for capitalism, and it was definitely bad for democracy. So he wrote a book about it. But then he didn't stop there. He went on and started a company that provided an alternative to BlackRock and Vanguard and State Street. Have you heard of these companies? BlackRock, maybe? Against the DEI and ESG agendas that were being pushed. That these are the issues that need to be decided at the ballot box, not by CEOs and boardrooms. And this is what he set out to stop. Now that company, Strive, is the most successful alternative to those agendas today. So a year ago, he came to me and said, Apoorva, I see a problem that's going to face our children, and I don't think there's a company that can fix this. There's no company that's going to fix the moral and the moral vacuum at the heart of our country, the lack of pride we see. I want our children to go up and be proud to call themselves American, and I don't see a company being able to do that. To do that, we need a president who can restore our faith in our government, someone who can make us proud to be American. And ladies and gentlemen, I know this man. He is the one who can do it. And so thank you so much for joining us tonight. I'm eager for you to hear from him and get to ask him your questions. Thank you so much.
Thank you. Thank you for being here. I appreciate it. Apoorva is a successful throat surgeon. She's operating on cancer survivors during the week, but is in this journey, and we're doing it together because this is about not just saving the life of one patient at a time. This is about saving the life of this country. And I think that's what's at stake right now if we fail to get this right now. I'll tell you, what pulled me into this race was we saw that red wave that never came in November. Remember that? Why was that? They blame one thing after another. Say maybe it was abortion. Maybe it was Donald Trump. Here's what I think. I think our Republican Party has grown lazy. I don't mean just lazy in the get out the vote operation sense of lazy. I mean lazy in defining who we are and what we actually stand for. Biden bad is not an agenda. It doesn't mean anything, right? I mean, I don't sit here bashing Joe Biden on the campaign trail largely because he's not even the president, not in any real sense of the word. He's a puppet for the managerial class, for the deep state. So why bother wasting the time bashing him? What we need to do as a Republican Party is offer a vision of our own. Answer, what does it mean to be a Republican in the year 2024? What does it mean to be an American in the year 2024? We lack a good answer to that question. What does it mean to be a citizen of this nation? That's what's at stake in this election. To me, it means we believe in the ideals of 1776. Ideals like merit and the pursuit of excellence. That you get ahead in this country, not on the color of your skin, but on the content of your character and your contributions. That is why I've said we will end racial and gender quota systems in American life. It's been a cancer on our national soul, and we are done with it. Thank you. That's merit in the United States of America. That's who we are. It means we believe in the rule of law. And I say this, we say this as the kids of legal immigrants to this country. That means your first act of entering this country cannot break the law. And that is why we will use our own military to secure our own borders in this country. That's what it means to stand for the rule of law in the United States of America. It means that we, the people, create a government that is accountable to us, not the other way around. That the people who we elect to run the government ought to be the ones who actually run the government. Not the shadow government in the deep state that's running the show today. If there's one thing I do as your next president, one war that I wage, it won't be some pointless foreign war abroad, sending $200 billion of our taxpayer money to Ukraine so some corrupt bureaucrat can buy a bigger house. No, we're not going to do that. That's where our money's going today. We're going to fight a war right here on our own home soil against our own administrative state, the permanent state, the shadow government in the United States of America. We will shut down government agencies that should no longer exist, from the FBI to the ATF to the CDC to the U.S. Department of Education. We're done reforming them. We're getting in there and shutting them down. That's how you drain the swamp. 75% mass firings across the federal government. That's how you drain the swamp. Don't ask what last year's budget was, which is based on the prior year's budget, which is based on the prior year's budget before that. We start with 0 as the baseline and ask what's actually necessary. Zero-based budgeting. That's how I've run my businesses. That's how many CEOs run their businesses. That's how we're going to run the federal government in the United States of America. That's how you fight that national debt. If I can't work for you for more than 8 years as your next president, which is a good thing, by the way, then neither should any of those federal bureaucrats who are reporting into me either. 8-year term limits for the bureaucracy instead of those civil service protections. That's how you actually drain the swamp and get this job done. You guys have a choice to make in about 12, 13 days here on January 15th. They duped Donald Trump on this, and I want you to understand that. He had the right intentions. He rolled over that log. We saw what crawled out. Well, guess what? They told him you can't fire those civil service employees because they have civil service protections. Read the law. Those civil service protections only apply to individual employee firings. They do not apply to mass firings. Mass firings are absolutely what I am bringing to the D.C. bureaucracy. That's what it's going to take. Somebody who has both the brawn and the muscle to break things. A businessman from the outside, I bring that, and Trump brought that. But it's also going to take an outsider who knows and understands the law and the Constitution in this country and understands it deeply. Those two things don't usually go together. Yeah, the academic law type over here, you got the business guy over here. Those two things don't go together. That's what gives me my purpose in this race. We live in a 1776 moment. We've been taught to celebrate our diversity and our differences so much that we forgot all of the ways that we are the same as Americans, bound by that common set of ideals. E pluribus unum. It means from many, one. That is what won us the American Revolution. That is what reunited us after the Civil War. That is what won us 2 world wars and the Cold War. That is what still gives hope to the free world. And if we can revive that dream over group identity and victimhood and grievance and bureaucracy, then nobody in the world, not a nation, not a corporation, not a virus, not China, is going to defeat us. That is what American exceptionalism is all about. And that is what we're going to revive to save this great country. Thank you for coming out today, guys. God bless you and your families. And may God bless our United States of America. We will not stop until we get this job done. I want to open this up. I'm going to sit across the table from Xi Jinping in about 18 months. I can handle the hard ones. So give me the hard ones. And you guys have a decision to make in about 12 days, and I'm asking for your help. Sir. Well, I'll just begin with this gentleman here, and then we'll bring the mic right back to you. Thank you, sir. Thank you very much.
Just a quick question, one comment. You obviously married way up.
I did. Yeah. That's good. It's good.
Well done.
Thank you very much. I appreciate that.
My question is kind of simple, but you talk about getting rid of these government administration and whatnot. So just take like the Department of Education, which I do agree needs to be gone. What replaces it?
Yeah, sure. Let me give you just a couple examples here, because the ones I get the most pushback on are the FBI and the Department of Education. They're a little different, actually. So the Department of Education is different from the FBI. That it began, you could debate it, but at least it began with good intentions. It began with actually preventing a federal bureau to make sure that states weren't using federal money to siphon them from predominantly black school districts to predominantly white school districts in the South. That's where it began. You could debate it, but it's veered to be something else altogether. They're using our own taxpayer money to now foist radical racial and gender ideologies onto local schools, saying you don't get that money unless you adopt those ideologies, and worse. So I'd shut it down, send the $80 billion back to parents across this country, who then get to choose where they send their kids to school. That's actually a far better use of money than funneling it, laundering it through that federal bureaucracy. A small sliver that goes towards vocational training and certain purposes related to workforce training. Move that to the Department of Labor. That's the answer to your question. Now, at the local level, every parent should be able to decide where they send their kids to school. I want the public schools to compete with the private schools in that case. You want to know how you do it? End the teachers' unions. Allows public schools to then compete with private schools. You want transparency? Combine that with choice. If you're going to teach it in the classroom, put it on the internet. And if you don't want to put it on the internet, you shouldn't be teaching it in the classroom. And then let's talk about reviving civic education in this country. I think every high school senior should have to pass the same civics test that every immigrant has to pass in order to become a voting citizen of this country. You got to know something about a country. You got to have that skin in the game. That's what I believe. That's what revival of education looks like. Let's talk about the FBI, what I call the failed Bureau of Investigation. Just speaking the truth here. 35,000 employees at the FBI. 20,000 of them are back office bureaucrats in the J. Edgar Hoover building, for God's sake, in Washington, D.C. That's what they still call it. Tells you about how they think of themselves. They're going home. They're finding honest work in the private sector. We're done. That's how we're ending it. 15,000 cops on the front lines, investigative agents and otherwise, we'll move them to places like the U.S. Marshals or the DEA, both of which have actually been far more effective at fighting child sex trafficking rings or fighting the fentanyl epidemic than the FBI has been. Move them to the Financial Crimes Enforcement Network at the U.S. Treasury with more specialization to go after complex white-collar crime, like the future FTXs and the SBFs of the world. So we will at once improve effectiveness while also ending the corruption and the rot that exists. This is how you drain the swamp. And so you have other presidential candidates in this race. Not a single one of them can pledge to tell you what I'm doing with the FBI. They'll tell you, oh, fire Christopher Wray, and maybe give him a new building, maybe you don't. That's the scope of the debate. Firing Christopher Wray doesn't do a darn thing. You get James Comey 2.0. You have an 8-headed hydra, you cut off one of the heads, it grows right back. You have to gut it at its core. So if you want incremental reform, I'm not your candidate. If you want to revive the ideals of the American Revolution, nobody's going to get that done in the way that I will for this country. That's what it's going to take right now, I believe, to save this country. We don't live in ordinary times. I think we live in a time where if we don't get this right in the next few years, before our sons are in high school, I don't think we have a country left. That's what I believe. And so, yes, I think that we live in an extraordinary time. That's what it's going to take in this country. To revive our nation is a leader who understands the Constitution, who swears an oath to that Constitution and actually keeps it. And the Constitution says there's 3 branches of government in this country, not 4. If there's one thing I get done as your next president, we will shut down that 4th branch and revive the soul of our republic. Thank you for that. I appreciate it.
It seems like every day I look on the television and there's more and more illegal immigration coming into this country.
Yes, that's accurate. Yeah.
And there are, 8 million, they say, came in just this past year.
Yep.
What do we do to stop it and either get these people out of this country or vet them so that they can become meaningful workers, possibly citizens? I don't think they should become citizens, but unless they go back and do it the right way.
So I'll give you a practical plan on this, sir. Our people deserve an answer to this. If this was happening on the western border or the eastern border of the United States, on the bordering the Pacific or the Atlantic Ocean, there's people coming from Asian nations or African nations from the west or east coast, we'd call it what it is. It's an invasion. Imagine if millions of people are showing up on the western or eastern coast. Yet it's happening on our southern border. Somehow this is immigration policy. I reject that. So we'll go from south to north. Here's how you solve it, okay? First, this starts south of our own southern border. Every one of those Central American countries, we're going to cut off aid. We're not going to give them a dime of support unless and until They have sealed their own borders all the way from Venezuela to the northern border of Mexico. That stops the massive flow because most people coming into this country aren't from Mexico. They're using Mexico as a passageway. It's like 70% of them come from south of Mexico. That's step one. Step two, not just building the wall. Of course, I'll do that. That's just basic table stakes. Complete the wall. But move our own troops to our own southern border. That I'm going to do as your commander-in-chief on day one. Move our troops to the southern border and the northern border, period. We got 40,000 of them sitting in places like Germany. For what end? Germany doesn't even pay for its own national defense, less than 2% of its GDP. They can pay for their own national defense. Our troops will defend our borders on my watch. That's how we seal that border. Well, I'm just getting warmed up. Finish this question quickly. Because this is the best border policy of all, is end the incentives to be here illegally. And birthright citizenship for the kids of illegals. It doesn't apply to them. That starts on January 20th, 2025 when I take office. No more anchor babies in this country. They will not enjoy birthright citizenship. And we will end our funding, using our money to fund sanctuary cities, to break the rule of law. We're using our taxpayer money, we're $34 trillion in the hole, to pay for breaking the rule of law. That ends. And then the final point, which you asked about, and you deserve an answer. Anybody who's in this country illegally will be returned to their country of origin, period. And I think that's a must. We can't stand for the rule of law. We can't look our kids in the eye and say, you have to follow the rules, when I'm leading a government that doesn't follow its own rules. Now, how do we do that? There's only 6,000 ICE agents. Answer. It's 287G, a section of the law that basically says ICE can delegate its warrant service power to local law enforcement. Now you're talking about 1 million local law enforcement that can get that job done. The country that put a man on the moon can get that done. Takes a president with a spine, with knowledge of the law and the Constitution, who comes from the outside that isn't bought and paid for, to see this through. I'm in this race because I'm that guy. And I think that's what it's going to take to get this job done. By March of 2025, the border crisis is behind us. By the end of 2025, by December of 2025, we have the mass deportations mostly underway and behind us in this country. Kathleen, and then we'll come to you. Oh, did you have one? Okay. Okay, got it. Sorry about that.
Thank you. My husband and I were really impressed at your last debate, and that's kind of what made me interested in you.
Thank you.
The great last debate that we had.
Thank you.
And especially at the very end, you brought up the carbon pipeline, and that's affecting my sister-in-law and brother-in-law's farm. And they were so appreciative of that. Can you expand more about how green energy is really just taking taxpayers' money and lining the pockets of people like the wind farms and things?
Absolutely. I can absolutely do that.
And what made you interested in the carbon pipeline to begin with? Because that really touched, the
Sure.
farmers of
So I'll tell you a story about that one. Thank you for that. And tell your sister-in-law I'm sorry for what they're going through. It's an underappreciated issue. So I have been an ardent opponent of the global climate change agenda for the last several years. The so-called ESG agenda, finding its way through capital markets. Apurva mentioned that in the introduction. I don't know if you were here. I started a company to fight this stuff in capital markets. So this has been a life mission of mine. Unshackling ourselves from what I see is the purposeful handcuff and constraint that they're using to effectively end our modern way of life as we know it. Now, where that shows up in your own backyard is with that carbon capture pipeline. So just by way of show of hands, does anybody else in this room know what we're referring to here by show of hands? A good number of you. Good. I'm glad to see that. So they're effectively using our taxpayer money, our money, to funnel that through federal subsidies to a small group of companies that are capturing carbon dioxide from ethanol plants to bury it under the ground, put it in pipes all the way across farmland. Many farmers don't want that crap in their backyard. It has sent people to the hospital when there's been leaks. It affects crop yields. Don't want that in their backyard, so the farmers say, thank you, no thank you. We don't want that. They're saying, no, we're going to use eminent domain, which is the second third rail for me. It's the Constitution. The Fifth Amendment says you can't do that unless it is for a public use and necessary. It's neither of those things here. In this state, to build it across. And then the cherry on top is you might think a Republican Party that cares about private property rights would stand up for it. Yet the Republican Party, both at this state and the federal level, is actually darn right in favor of it. So much so that I'm the only major Republican in this race who has opposed the use of eminent domain for this carbon capture pipeline. And just broadly, I just want to put a fine point on this. I want you to ask yourselves why I'm the only candidate who can even touch certain issues. To tell you I'm against the CO2 pipeline. To tell you I'll shut down the FBI. To tell you the climate change agenda is a hoax because it has nothing to do with the climate. That I'll pardon every peaceful J6 protester. That will strip pharmaceutical companies of their special liability exemption for vaccine manufacturers from being sued. The only candidate in this race who can tell you these things, because everybody else, and this is what the CO2 issue is about, is bought and paid for by corrupt forces that comes down to green pieces of paper that buy our politicians. Not a single other Republican can stand for this issue. So you asked me how I came to this. So I was already against the climate agenda. I'm in March, long before people who I knew who I was as a candidate, in Potawatomi County, where we're actually going later today. I was walking a cow pasture with my son, Arjun, and we were just having a chat with a farmer who first told me about this issue. And it sounded so wild. And I was just like, okay, this is just one of these people who might have misunderstood what's happening, because there's no way they're actually going to use eminent domain. And maybe people imagine these things and imagine the worst. And then we look into it. It's like, no, this, everything I was told appears to be accurate. So I post a video. I'm just giving the inside baseball here a little bit. So I post a video on social media from that farm. And I say, hey, here's what I heard, and I understand. I just cross-checked it. It appears to be right. This is wrong. This shouldn't be happening. In my next car ride, within 2 hours, I'm getting phone calls from the most powerful people in the state, effectively excoriating me, but then telling me maybe I didn't understand and needed to be educated on the issue. I said, all right, I'm open to hearing anybody's view. I talked to everybody. I talked to some of the biggest proponents of people who are pushing the pipeline. Dr. Bruce Rastetter, the person who's actually funding, was actually the proprietor of one of the lead pipelines. I've talked to many of the lawmakers who were supposedly in favor of it. I'll always hear everyone's view. And what I was told, they actually lied to me. This is what really pissed me off and brought me back to this. Because it's one thing if you disagree with me. If you lie to me on something important that's affecting people's lives, they said, no, we're not using eminent domain. We just want to do peaceable deals. Now, I'm still against it. I'm against the use of federal subsidies. But if you say we're not going to use eminent domain, that's fine. But now it comes back to this fall, and I'm hearing from the same farmers, they absolutely are using eminent domain. And so that's when I went nuclear on this. And I'm proud to have Steve King's endorsement. He came out earlier this week and endorsed me in this race as well. The mainstream media lost their minds, labeling him as whatever, racist or xenophobe. It's all wrong. It's all made up anyway. They tarred him in the same way that they're lying to you about everything else they've lied about for the last 10 years. But he's one of the other people, one of the rare Republicans who's able to stand for truth on this issue. So anyway, that's what brought me to this. And I would rather, Ron DeSantis is a good person. His instincts are going to be against this. I know him. Even today, it comes out, Des Moines Register reporting that he's coming out in favor of the use of eminent domain for these pipelines. That's not Ron DeSantis. That's his donors speaking through him. And so it's a bastardization of our system. These people have been turned into pawns. And it's sad. I don't even blame the politicians anymore. These people are just puppets that have been deputized. And so, I don't know, for my part, I'd rather speak the truth and lose this election than to win by playing some fake snakes and ladders. The other people that are seeing money pouring into their super PACs that are feeding the ads to people across this state, that's not how I want to win. We spent inordinate amounts of our family's wealth precisely because, and we didn't inherit it, it was hard-earned, but the inheritance we want to give our kids is a country that allows them to live the same American dream we did. And if we don't have private property rights, if we don't have a constitution, if we don't have our basic way of life, which is what's at issue for this climate change agenda, then we don't have a country left. And that's what we're going to put an end to. And so my belief is that's going to be the winning strategy. I think we'll win the Iowa caucus. With your help, I think we can make it happen. But that's not my choice. That's your choice. Is it? They'll give me the wrap on this. Thank you. I appreciate that. Just give me the last. Should I? Okay. Okay, last question, sir. Thank you, Kathleen.
Hey, thank you. Thank you for
Thank you.
coming to Marshalltown.
Thank you.
I think crime and control of crime across our nation is a super.
I think it is too.
Right now,
it's solvable.
What would you do, and what would your plan be to protect law enforcement when they're legitimately doing their work within the scope of the law and being criminally prosecuted by local courts? What plan do you have with Congress? Any legislative efforts to protect police officers that are doing the right thing, trying to protect communities?
Thank you. I appreciate that. Thank you. Do you serve, or you know people who do? You know people who are serving right now, I assume? You are. Thank you. I appreciate that, sir. Thank you for your service to this country. We know how to fight violent crime in this country. We've done it before. Police, more cops on the street who are able to do their jobs without fear of being sued for looking over their shoulder and being framed as having done the wrong thing. So qualified immunity, we got it backwards. We're giving it to back office bureaucrats, but we're actually stripping it back for cops on the front lines. That's wrong. Number two, I think compensation needs to be higher for police officers and people who serve in our own military. I say this for the military, and I think it's reasonable to consider even for local police officers. Just as you don't pay I don't think the military should pay taxes on their compensation for people serving active duty military. I think there's actually a similar argument to be made for police officers at the local level as well, to recruit more young people who are able to earn the full American dream by being a cop. Now, a big part of this is the mental health institutions that we've shuttered. Right now, what we did is we closed the psychiatric hospitals over the last 30 years in this country because of pharma industry lobbying. The pharma industry wanted people out of those psychiatric institutions so they could sell more of their antipsychotics, which are their blockbuster drugs. Well, that led to a violent wave of crime across this country. That's the prison system is where people are getting their mental health care, which is to say nothing at all. More cops on the street able to do their jobs without fear of being sued, and bringing back the psychiatric institutions in this country, where if you're psychiatrically ill, remove psychiatrically ill and dangerous people from their communities, as we used to. That's how we fight the epidemic of violent crime across this country. But it takes a president and leaders at every level with the spine to actually see that through. So that would be my answer to your question, sir. Did you have a follow-up for that?
Would you be willing to present legislation or sign
Yes.
a bill into law that would protect and have a comprehensive
Yes.
coverage for police officers to be not criminally prosecuted for doing their jobs within the scope of the law?
That's exactly right. And so the bill that specifically I would support, and I've said this, is the level of sovereign immunity that qualified immunity that every prosecutor enjoys at the federal level. Every police officer at the local level is deserving of that same level of immunity. The bureaucrats work for themselves. How about give those police officers that same level of protection? Yes, I would stand for it. And that's the answer to your question. Thank you very much. And I thank you for your service to this country. I can't leave you hanging, so maybe we'll give you the final word.
Many of you know me. My name is Sherry Kokenauer, and I work for the Republican Party as a secretary. I also run the Pachyderm herd on Fridays. And this Friday, this is the time to get involved in your local party. We need to get Vivek or other candidates, Republicans, to beat Biden this fall. So get involved. My plea is to get involved, come to caucus, and get activated. And even if Vivek isn't our candidate, we need to get Biden out. So
Thank you. I appreciate that. Thank you for what you're doing, and I appreciate that. It's going to take efforts of people like you who care about this country.
So Friday noon, we're going to have a mock caucus.
Yes? Sir.
I just, really quick, I know you're pressed for time, but all the things that you're saying sound wonderful, right? But how, is there a plan for if you get elected and you are president, how are you going to bring people together enough to make that a reality?
Great question to close on. And what I will say is that's why I'm in this race. So I expect to be successful in this race. I believe it's going to take now somebody coming from the outside to reach and lead the next generation of Americans who isn't bought and paid for by that system. At the level of congressmen and the U.S. senators, it's different. You want somebody who's focused on policy. At the level of presidency, policy is half the job. But the other half of our job is to revive our national character, to answer who we are as Americans. That's what pulls me into this race. The last president to do this for this country was Ronald Reagan. When he left office in January of 1989, of everything he could have picked, bringing us to the near end of the Cold War, getting us out of stagflation, the thing that he said in his farewell speech was something else. Reagan said he was proud to revive a national character that we lacked when he first took office in 81. Apoorva and I, we think a lot about what do we want to tell you that we actually did for this country when we leave in January 2033 after 2 terms. And yes, we do expect to not only be the nominee, but also to lead this country over the next 8 years. What do I want to tell you we did? I'll tell you, if there's one thing I tell you, we'll shut down the deep state. That's gone and behind us. I'll tell you, we grew this economy as a result, that we unleashed American exceptionalism in this country, that we're no longer dependent on communist China for our modern way of life, from our pharmaceuticals to our own military, that I kept us out of World War III, that we protected our own homeland in this country to make sure what happened on October 7th in Israel never happens in the next decade or beyond in this country. All of that we're going to tell you we did. But the thing I most want to tell you is what Apurva mentioned at the very beginning, that we revived national pride in our two sons and their generation, that the next generation is once again proud to be a citizen of this nation. We're not going to do it by compromising on our principles. Some people think you unite the country by showing up in the middle and compromising. No, we're going to unite this country by being uncompromising about the principles that unite all of us as Americans. To put America first, and I'm an America first conservative, to put America first, we need a president who leads us to rediscover what America is. What is this country? What are the ideals that unite us? They're enshrined in the Declaration of Independence and the Constitution. And I think we deserve a president who stands for those ideals without compromising. That's how we're going to unite this country. E pluribus unum. It's not our diversity that's our strength. It's our strength that unites us across our diversity. And I'll tell you something. There's two America First candidates in this race. And I want to be very practical with you here. What's your name again?
Sherry.
Sherry. Women like Sherry are doing hard work for that Iowa caucus. Every one of your voices and votes, it's like the equivalent, Sherry, of 1 million people who show up in the impact that it has on choosing the next president. So this is important. And I'm asking you to take 30 minutes of your time on January 15th to do what's right for this country, and to bring 10 people with you who you talk about what we talked about here, bring them too. This is important for our country. When you have that choice to make, I think it basically comes down to two candidates, two America First candidates. It's Donald Trump and myself. And I respect him and his contributions to this country. I've stood against the unconstitutional persecutions against him more than any other candidate in this race. I've gone to the length of saying I would remove myself voluntarily from the ballots from Maine to Colorado if they remove him unconstitutionally from those ballots as well, something the other Republican candidates haven't been willing to do. But I'm going to ask you to open your eyes. If you think that they're going to let this man get anywhere near the White House again, I want you to open your eyes. We're falling into a trap that they've laid for us. They're selling us the rope today that they will use to hang us tomorrow. We cannot afford to fall for that trick. The America First agenda cannot end with Donald Trump. It didn't start with Donald Trump. It started in 1776 with George Washington. We owe it to our founding fathers to make sure we have another 250 years and then some left in our country's future. We love the man because, you know what, he got this fight started, but it is our job to finish it. And that's why I'm in this race. You got the future of America first standing right here in front of you. We are in the middle of a war for the future of our country. And if we want to win this war, those of us who love the United States of America over those fringe minority who hate this country and what we stand for, we the people over the managerial class in the deep state in the federal government, if we want to win this war, vote for the commander-in-chief, the general who is not yet wounded in that war. That is why I'm in this race. And Apurva and I, we will not stop until we get this job done. We don't have to anymore be this nation in decline. We don't have to be at the end of the ancient Roman Empire. I think that if George Washington were alive today, he would tell us, you know what? You guys have 250 years and then some. We're still young as a nation. We're still going through our own version of adolescence, figuring out who we're going to be when we grow up. That's what George Washington would tell us. That's what Thomas Jefferson would tell us. Jefferson was 33 years old when he wrote the Declaration of Independence. It will take somebody whose best days in life are still yet ahead to see a country whose best days can still be ahead of itself. And so if you all do your part on January 15th, and that's what we're asking you for, I promise you, Apurva and I and our family, we will do ours to make sure, not in some fake politician way, but in a true way, make sure that our country's best days are actually still ahead of us. Thank you for coming today, guys. God bless you and your families, and may God bless our United States of America. Thank you, guys. God bless. Thank you. Thank you.
This is our moment.
guys. Thank you, guys.
Together,
Thank you, guys.
everyone in this room, we can make Vivek Ramaswamy the next president of the United States of
for your
America.
service, Jim.
Make
We got
sure
your back,
and
okay?
talk
Good luck.
with our
We got your back
team.
and a clear plan for that.
Jacob,
I've been talking
Juan,
about this for a long time.
Juliana,
Qualified
Charles
immunity
has
for cops.
contact cards.
Absolutely
Please fill out
deserving.
these
That's how we get
contact
right people
cards.
to do their job. So.
And if you would like to be a precinct
I know they have.
captain and speak at your local precinct, just check the box.
But that's why people
Become a
aren't serving,
precinct
and that's why we have crime. We're going to
Thank
fix
you,
that. We got your back,
thank you,
okay?
and God bless
Yeah,
the
let's do it.
United
Let's do it. Let's
States
do
of
it. Yeah,
America.
thank you. Thank you. Thank you, Esther. Thank you, Esther. Come on in, sir.
I wanted to ask you about policy on China.
Oh, so basic policies declare economic independence. The reason we're scared of China is because we depend on them. Cut off that dependence, the rest becomes easy. I've given some long speeches about that.
Yeah.
It's a great question, young man.
Because Trump, he draw like attention towards that issue. But
I know, but he didn't actually do it.
do
Yeah. No, he got started, though. I give him credit for that, but we're going to take it to the next level. How old are you?
I'm about 16 years old.
Proud of you, man.
Yeah.
Proud of your son, too. Proud of your son. Yep. Bringing 16 years old, asking good questions. Good. I did that, too. Just think independently. If the pack is running one way, just ask the question and run the other way. That's what I'd give you. Thank you. Good to see you.
Well,
how are you guys?
This is number 5.
It's good to see you guys. You guys
But
are
they
great.
just keep getting better.
Oh, thank you,
Really
guys.
do.
I appreciate that. If you spread the word for us in this community,
Well,
I was so grateful to you.
I'm the head of my precinct for the caucuses. and
Amazing.
I told them I was going to precinct for you.
Thank you. Thank you.
I,
That means a lot to me.
I'm doing what I can.
Thank you. We're not going to stop till
And
we
it
get
was
this
so
done.
nice to meet your wife.
Thank you. Thank you. I appreciate that. Thank you, guys. I really appreciate it.
all the way.
Thank you. I appreciate that, guys. Thank you. Thank you very much. Hey, guys. Thank you guys for being here,
Appreciate it
guys.
so much.
You spread the message in this community. All right.
Yeah.
We're gonna do this. I appreciate you guys. Thank you. Means a lot. Thank you, guys.
Here about 3 more hours.
Oh, thank you. I appreciate that. I was just having fun too. They're pulling us to the western part of the state where we're headed today. Yeah, we had a couple, 1 or 2 events between there, but yeah. So it's good seeing you, man. Thank you. Thank you.
Coming from?
What's that?
Where did you just come from?
Oh, we came from Des Moines, and then we're working our way west.
Okay.
We're ending the night in Potawatomi with a couple of events in between. We'll have done 330 events by the end of this.
Stay healthy.
Yes,
Yeah,
yes.
how do you
Thank you.
do it?
Thank you. I appreciate that. No, we're enjoying it. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you. I appreciate that. Thank you, sir.
good seeing you,
I appreciate
Jim.
the time. Thank you. Thank you. Good seeing you, my man. We're
Good seeing you.
going to do our part, guys.
All right.
Thank you.
Hey.
Spread the word in this community. That's all I'll ask.
We will.
Thank you. Thank you, my man. I appreciate this. Thank you so much for what you're doing. I appreciate this. I'm grateful to you. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you, sir. I appreciate it. Thank you. Thank you, sir. Thank you. Thank you. Hi.
Oh,
Good to see you.
yes. I just
you, guys.
barely caught the end of what you said because came straight from work.
Oh, you
so.
did? Well, thank you for being here.
Yeah.
You caught the last couple minutes? Or?
Yeah.
Okay.
Like
Well, we
last 5
covered a lot of
minutes
ground,
or
but I'll
Don't
tell
call
you.
me in.
Thank you. We will stand for the Constitution is what it all comes back down to. So thank you,
Thank you.
guys.
Nice to meet you.
I appreciate it. Tell your sister-in-law we've got their back, okay?
Thank you.
Thank you. Spread that message in that community.
We're so happy that
Thank
you
you.
brought it up on national TV.
It's the right thing to do.
I was telling her.
It's the right thing to do.
Material balance.
Yeah, thank you.
No. The pipeline. Do a material balance on an ethanol plant. They burn methane.
Oh, they do. You could actually methanol conversion. You could do a lot of other things. This is a farce for a couple people to get paid extra money. It's wrong. But we have their back, and just tell the people in the state.
Is the CO2 that they're trying to capture.
It's a cycle. It doesn't make any sense, but I'm familiar with that. So thank you so much. I appreciate it. Thank you so much. Thank you. Thank you, guys. Take care. Take care. Oh,
You and your wife
okay.
together. Any chance of that?
Yes. Thank you. Oh, just the two of us.
How
Oh,
do
nice.
you get in?
She'll take it. Kathleen will take it. Kathleen, thank you so much. Thank you. Thank you.
Okay, Ray, smile.
There you go.
Thank you all.
Thank you.
Kathleen, thank you for everything you're doing.
So good to see
I
you.
think we're going to do this.
I know we
We're
are.
going to do this. We can do this.
It's the best revenge.
Oh, I think we're going to. Absolutely. Absolutely. I think we're going to do this. Good seeing you. Good seeing you. Thank you. Thank you. Thanks, man. Keep up the good work, brother. Thank you. Keep up the good work, guys.
Yeah.
Keep up the good work, guys. We'll see, man. Take it easy, shall we? Thank you.
Have a good
Appreciate
day.
it. Thank you. Thank you, man. It's good to see you.
You bet. Thank you.
Thank you. Appreciate it. Great place. It's good to meet you. Thank you. We're taking cars. Did they move the car seats to the bus?
Yeah.
They did. Okay, good.
No, over here, Jeff. Come through here.
They moved the car seat to the bus. Okay, got it. Cool.
Gavin, are you coming with us? Okay, great.
Is this where we're going?
Yep, you guys are going in here.
Okay.
Yep, we're gonna head to the airport. Hand sanitizer.
We'll see you there.
Jackets in there, and
We'll see you there.
guys there.
Thank you.
Sound good? Got it.
Okay.
All right, we'll be
Yeah,
right
take
behind
it.
you.
Thank you so much. Spread the message. Thank you.